Hi everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com. Today I'm going to show you a few cards created with the On the Ocean bundle, but I wanted to show you some great features of the glass mat, and this is going to be available starting January the 4th. If you join my demonstrator team, or my team of demonstrators, if you join my team and want to become a demonstrator, whether it is to share this with your friends or just join for the discount, this is one of the things that you can actually get. So you get the glass mat, which is a very large glass mat, and you'll get this silicone mat, which you can use for holding your inks. You could use for adding watercolor and spreading it. You also get this really nice chamois that's actually a little bit more flexible, touch-wise is what I'm meaning to say, versus the other chamois that we do carry. So this one's really nice. I like it. It's a very floppy clean. It's easy to clean up. Plus, it's gray, so it kind of also mimics maybe a little bit of the staining that you're going to see with the purple one. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm going to show you some techniques today. So I'm going to just slide this out of the way, and it's going to actually be using the glass mat. And what I wanted to show you was, this is a card that I created, and I'll show you really quickly how you can make this background. This actually just uses an ink pad and a block. So this one was used with a larger one. I'll give you a little sample of that. And then I just did a little stamping here. I actually colored onto white cardstock with my Lost Lagoon and Pretty Peacock, and then I just die cut it and glued it on. I did a little bit of an embossed piece back here. This is a piece of Pebbled Path. So this is 3 by 4. This would be 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and then the rest were just scraps. So that's one card. And then I created this one. This is more of a watercolor card, and I'll show you how I did this, but there's another type of a card that you can create still from this. I die cut this all with white. I colored this with pecan pie, and then I kind of went in and edged it with a little bit of early espresso, and then I just added a very, very light touch of Pebbled Path to the edge of the sails. The background, the lightest color is actually Azure Afternoon, and then it's coated over a little bit with some Blueberry Bushel, and then I did a little bit of splatter with Night of Navy. So two really fun cards. This one more so just uses the stamps and a little bit of dyes. This uses mostly dyes and a little bit of inking. So I'm going to show you one other card that we can create. But prior to that, I'm going to show you two other things. So if you have watercolor paper, I'm going to just give this a spritz just for one. We'll do it two different ways. This is just a smaller ink pad, and I'll go with, just to show you, Tahitian Tide. So what you do is you take your block, and this is going to be a little bit smaller, but you do want to make sure your block is clean. That's probably about the only thing you want to do. You're going to ink it, just stamp it into the ink. And then what you'll do is, and since I'm over this, it doesn't really matter, I'm going to spray... slide this out of the way for a second. I'm going to spray my block just to kind of soften the ink, because you don't really want anything that's got a detail to the speckle of the ink, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. And then I'm just going to turn it over and stamp. Now this is a wet block, or a wet piece of watercolor paper, so it's going to look a little bit different. It's going to move a little bit more, which it does tend to do, which is pretty. That's one way that you can do it. So then I'm going to show you another piece, and let me just wipe this off. This piece is dry. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same things. Let me just wipe off my block. So clean block into the ink pad. So now you can see how it has like the little dots of ink, and what you want to do is you want to get rid of that. You kind of want to soften it. So I'm going to just once again spray. You can see it kind of blends the color. It's not quite so good at the top. All right, so then I'm going to flip this over and just put it onto my cardstock. Again, that is watercolor paper. So that gives you more of a square. And if you have the splatters, don't worry about it. Again, we just did this one for funsies, so it's not really a piece that we're going to use. But if you get splatters in it, I mean, thinking of this has splatters. This one could benefit from splatters. It would be kind of cool. So don't discount if you splatter something, you're like, oh, I ruined my project, because you didn't. It's just a different way of doing it. So that is one technique that you do, and then all you do is just wipe your block off, and you can use it just as normal. Now, before you do anything with these, what you do want to do, and since this one has water on it, I'm going to show you one other thing you can do. What you want to do is dry them. So I'm going to grab it's just a spray bottle of water, and I'm just going to make a little puddle of water here. And I'm going to take a bit of my Night of Navy, Just drop a drop there. You can see that's really cool being able to do it. Plus, it's going to always pick itself up. Now, I do have my large watercolor brush here, so it is wet. But I'm going to just go in here, just pick up some water. And then since this piece is actually wet, you can kind of just bleed your colors onto this. Just like so. And it'll kind of make a whole different image. Kind of looks like waves. And just kind of spread it out. Now this one isn't quite as wet because remember we only wet the part there. So this one is not going to lay down exactly the same. It's only going to stay inside where the water is. But another thing you could do if you wanted to, I'm just going to take that and rinse it. Another thing you can do if you wanted to, this is a thinner brush, is you can just pick up and just tap on your finger. And again, this is dry cardstock, so it will be a little bit different. So it will just give you that kind of splattery effect. Okay, so there's one. Again, dry. Now this one, which is wet, and it's even almost starting to try to pick it up on the edge here. If you splatter this one, it's going to have a completely different effect. The only thing is you definitely want to give yourself room. You don't want to be splattering all over your projects here. I'm going to just rinse that out with some clean water. Okay, and the best part of all, so you could do this one of two ways. You can certainly do it with this, but since we're trying to use this for other stuff, I'm going to just use a microfiber cloth, and you just pick up your ink. Now, since we have our slightly damp cloth, I'm going to just go over it just so I don't get anything else on it. And there you go, completely cleaned up. Now, one other thing you're going to do, this is going to be a little bit loud. Just going to heat it with your heat tool just to dry. Now, you can see for this one that's dry, it's moving back and forth, but it's staying in that square. So you can kind of direct where you want it to go one direction or not, or just kind of keep moving it and it will all dry out pretty quickly. You can also allow these to air dry and they get a completely different finish. Okay, I'm going to set this on the side. Now this one is wet, so you can actually move your ink a little bit. You can see your ink is sliding around, kind of following the path of where the water has gone. But the cool part about this is you will get more of a concentrated ink look in certain areas. And you can blow your ink eventually, so still be careful what you do have near. This kind of almost looks like the spray from the ocean. So you can see what I mean about being able to blow your ink. So I usually will hold it with like paper piercer or take your pick tool. That's dry for the most part. We still have a couple little splatters. So if you wanted to, you could even now go in and pick up some different pigments. So let's just go with one other one. We'll say blueberry bushel. Okay, there's a little bit of blueberry bushel. And I don't want to unconcentrate it, so I'm only give it just a little squirt of water. And then we're just going to go in with our brush. And you can see you'll get a lot of splatters. And since we have this, we'll do this one too. Okay. Same thing again, and I'm going to just, since this isn't very much, I'm going to wipe this. And now one other thing before I finish with this, just because this is a lot of ink, and if you can use it, why not? We're going to just set these off to dry. One other thing you can do, I'm just going to grab a little scrap piece, and this is actually how I created the waves. So this is just a strip of watercolor paper, so I'm going to just slightly spray it. And then what you can do is you could just dip this into your ink, and you'll get a different pattern. If you want to add, a little bit more water, if you want a little bit lighter, or you want to spread the color out, or just get color variances. And same thing, this will dry completely differently. So I'll grab one a little bit more right there. So if we grab this, I'm going to just wipe this off. And again, I get these microfiber cloths from you can get them at Home Depot, you can get them at Costco. They're very reasonable. It's a humongous bag of them. You can machine wash them. And then I'm just going to hit this again with the heat tool. And the reason, or the way you'll know it's dry, is it will actually re-flatten back out again. That's mostly dry. I'm going to just flip it, hit the back, and it should be pretty flat now. There you go. So then you could use this piece if you wanted to die cut for this piece here, if you wanted to die cut for the wave, if you wanted to do something in the background. I mean, there's definitely lots of things you could do with it. And we have this one little smudge here. We'll just wipe that off. Okay, so there's that. And then these, you can kind of do a couple different ways. So I wanted to be able to show you for this was the pickup of the ink. But then what you can do is you can either stamp this. So I'll show you one variation. So this is kind of like a variation on what we did. This is just barely big enough. And I'm going to do this just to get the color. I'm going to do this with the VersaFine, because it has such great detail. Plus it'll really give a little bit to the blackness of it. So here would be one. Okay, so then you have your super pigmented black, and we can take this, add a little something to it. I also did these yesterday with the same technique of picking up the ink, and then I went back and splattered. You can also splatter with your Stampin' Blends. That's what this is. So you could die cut that, die cut any of these pieces. This is the leftover piece that I had from this. So you could even put this on here if you wanted to and put it onto a card front. It'd be pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely going to be very abstract, and a little teeny part of that still isn't dry. Or the other thing you can do, let me move this over, is if you grab your dies. So again, when you're doing your I'll show you one other thing too. When you're doing your stamped image, and let me just grab one little scrap of white. There we go. And I'm going to do this once more with my VersaFine. And I'll show you exactly what I mean, because then you can kind of make this into a 2-for-1, if you will. Okay, so you have that. Then the other thing you can do is grab, we'll say a piece of black. Oh, that's a whole piece. I don't want to use that one. If you have black that has some adhesive sheet on it, that's all a huge bonus as well. So we're going to grab this. And I also want to do this piece here. And then we're going to do the sails with Pebbled Path. Let's see if I have one more scrap of black in here. Yeah, we can do both on that one. But prior to doing that, just to make this a little bit easier, what I like to do is add the adhesive sheet, okay? So the adhesive sheet is on the back of this. So what I'm going to do is slide this over. Put this here. And this is usually the way I do it just because it's a little bit easier. So we are going to need a piece for our ship and our sail. They almost fit on there, so I'm actually going to just peel this piece off as well. And then we'll just trim it. So what I usually do is I just lay it down, press this back, and then I'll go in with my scissors and just snip this to the end. And then we can use this for the back of this white piece. So now this entire sheet has adhesive sheet on the back of it here, okay? Just snip this off. Okay, so there's one. And then we're going to put a little bit, just to make this easier, right on the back. Just kind of eyeballing where this is, on the back of here. On the back of here. So I'm just looking through to see where it is. So this is going to die cut it out. I'm going to just miss that little teeny piece, which is fine. I'm going to rip that. So we're going to die cut this here. And then we want to have our ship. And this is actually the back of, so it's like all the lines and the post of the ship. But we're going to do our sails in pebbled path. So I just need to put a little piece on here and then we'll be good. And it's funny because whenever I pull this off, I always am like, oh, it's this side, and it's never is. It's always the opposite side of what I think it is. That's the sticky. So whatever you think it is, go with the opposite, because that's going to be correct. All right, so we have this one little piece left. So then I'm going to grab this, put this through. Some of it may not go on, and that's fine. I'm going to aim for more of this part. So I'm going to die cut all of these. See if I can get them all on in one fell swoop. And this, just give this a little trim. And I'm going to, just for the sake of making sure it doesn't move, I'm just going to tape this one little piece. Okay, and I'm going to pop all these in to my die cut machine. I'm still using a Big Shot. I still love my Big Shot because it works. And I think that's the number one thing, is you want your die cut machine to work. All right, so we're going to pull these out. The nice part is they come completely clear. Pull this little Post-it. Okay, so move all these over. All right, so the one that we already did, which we had this stamped in the background, but if you just want it just a little bit popped up on top of that, like it's the shadow of a ship, or you could have like two ships, one in the front, one in the back. The other thing you could do with this is we'll just run this right through. I kind of like the way this looks. Run this through our Pebbled Path ink right along the edge. Doesn't do it for all of them because of the way the edges of some of them are, but it takes away just a little bit of that whiteness. And I'm still going to use this for something, so I kept that out. Okay, then we have our black posterior piece of our ship. We have the bottom, and then finally, if I get this one out. No, let me get my little piercer. We have our sails. So put this, move all these out of the way. Oh, one thing I did forget, and I want to go through, I want to show you this really quickly because maybe you didn't know, because I literally just found this out yesterday, but you can use these wave pieces independently, okay? So we're going to line this up. I will definitely suggest, though, that you need to use adhesive sheet on the back of this. It makes it way easier to stick. Now, this is the base piece, so it's not quite as bad. So I'm going to run this one through. But the little thin piece, which is this, and I'm going to just put this through on a lighter piece, but I do want to put a piece of adhesive sheet because it makes it immensely easier. I'm just going to cut this, trimming this off. So this piece actually will lay on top of this. So I'm going to put this through, and this cuts a very, very detailed piece. So I'm just going to run both of these through. This one, again, because it's only one side, it only cuts the top. So you're going to have some bottom to this. So just remember that when you do it. So I'm going to pop these through, and then we'll put these together. Okay, so with this one, the other thing that's kind of neat is you can really use both pieces. You can layer them together because no one's really going to know. I don't know if you would want to put one behind and one in front, but they cut enough. The wave is really very versatile, so we'll save that for this piece. But this piece here cuts out. I'm going to show you the top first because this didn't dawn on me. You probably could use this piece again if you wanted to. But this actually does line up with these pieces. Is it this one or is it this one? Yeah, it's this. So it lines right up with these. So let me pull the rest of this out. You know what I'm going to actually do is pull it off because with this having the adhesive sheet on it, it's super connected. And I think it's more so because it was a watercolor piece of cardstock. Or I guess watercolor paper, you would say, not watercolor cardstock. So you have this whole piece. Aside from this, you don't need this little doobie over here. And what this does is it lines right up on top of your other piece here. But you can also use it standalone, so it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. So there you see you have your little layering piece there. So I'm going to leave this until we finish with that part. We also have this. We have our other little piece. So those you can use alone or together. So kind of nice. They're very versatile. I'm going to go ahead and put some dimensionals on the back of this and just pop it up. I'm not really one for using the, oh, I forgot. You know what I forgot I did? I put adhesive sheet on this. That's right. That was the whole point of this, Rach. You didn't want it to pop up. We wanted it to layer. I don't really use a lot of the black mini sentiments. I'm just going to put it so it's slightly over like a shadow. I more so use the bigger black dimensionals. So when it comes to the time where all I have left are these, I usually use the bigger pieces first. And let's see, we'll go with this. But just to make it a little bit darker, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out my Night of Navy ink pad. And I'm going to just drag this just right on the top. And then I'm going to get out my blending brush. And I'm going to just blend down just a little bit into it. There we go. You could even go in with your white gel pen and add a little bit of caps to the waves. And probably with the size of this, because this is a little bit smaller, I could probably cut this and layer these two together, which I think I'm going to do. So we're going to glue this one down. Didn't use adhesive sheet for this, so I just wanted to double check. Okay. Stick this on. And even if it goes on a little bit of an angle, we're going to cover it up here at the end, so we should be good. snip. And then same for this one. This one I am going to put on dimensional, so I'll use these since I have them here. 1 and 2. I think I need just a little piece for the middle. That on there. And worst case scenario, we could always trim the bottom of this if we needed to. But let's just see what it looks like before we get there. What I'm going to do for now, just to blend it in, is I'm going to just, since I have some navy on here, that wasn't as much as I thought. Might get this back out again. Add just a little bit of navy onto the bottom, just to kind of hide that white edge. There you go. That looks pretty cool. I am going to trim just this little overhang here because it's just slightly hanging. There you go. Perfect. Okay. All right, so there is one. And then for this other one, what I wanted to do was we're going to layer these together. So you do need to, I'm going to just use my glue cap here, just pop out the, whoops, pop out the black pieces. Or the nice part about these is when you pull them, it just completely removes, well, almost everything. Okay, so this will go onto this. But we do still need to put our sails on, which that is going to go in front because you need this to sit in front of this visually. And before I do that, I wanted to do one other thing. I wanted to add just a little bit of shading. And I'm going to grab just a little brush. So this is my Pebbled Path. Just to give that little bit of a, oops, and I touched it there, a little dirtier look to the sails. It's supposed to be like, we'll say the black pearl. How about that? Okay. So this is going to sit on top of these, but I want to pop these out first. Let me just clean these up just a little bit. Because once you adhere it, it'll be a little bit difficult. And I know we do have the adhesive sheet on the back, so they will come off, but I don't want anything to get stuck where I can't pull it out. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to take this off. I have this teeny little spot that did not get adhesive sheet on it, but that's going to be okay. Do be careful though, because the connection between these is very, very tight. If you wanted to, you could even pop these up on dimensionals on the layers in between, which would be pretty cool. All right, now we're going to stick this on because he is going to stick. That is going to stay together because what we're going to do is pull off the adhesive sheet on the back of this as well. And this could have been a whole nother one where if you wanted to, you could have popped it up with dimensionals, but, or even a whole piece of foam adhesive sheet. All right, let's move this out of the way. Granted, we probably could have gone with a little bit bigger of the background there since it's so tiny, but you know, we're just working with what we have here. So this can be totally a smaller scale card and then it really won't make a difference anyway. Put a little bit of a wave down here at the bottom. So we just have this little wave, or we could put the bigger piece. So this is where we'll put that on. We'll put this in the background maybe. So I'm going to put this on the very bottom. This does happen to have adhesive sheet on it, so I might as well just use it just because it's there. This will be our really low base piece. And I'm going to be honest with you with this glass mat. I'm not sure how it does or doesn't deal with adhesive. I don't usually work directly on it this way, so definitely be cautious if you're just being willy-nilly the way I am with this, because I don't exactly know how it would be. And then we're going to put this on top. So we'll have a little bit of wave there. And this, I can't remember if this one does or doesn't have adhesive sheet on it. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, so we're going to glue this. So I'm definitely going to put a good amount of glue on here. Not ridiculous, just slight, because we do have watercolor paper and we're on a lot of stuff. We have a lot of media going on here. Now the bottom of this little fancy die cut does have adhesive sheet on it because we put that on there before. So we're really just pressing down the other layer. That adhesive will fit. So giving that a good press. And then before we're done, just to kind of bring it together, because we have that little square there, we don't have a really huge amount of color. I'm going to just use the ink that's already on here and just kind of sponge up some of our background pieces. Okay, and then this one, these did smudge just a teeny bit because they weren't dry, but I'm okay with that. So then I'm going to just trim up, and I'm definitely going to need to wipe this off when we're finished because I got a little crazy with my crafting and my gluing. All right, so there are those two. Throw my trash out. Okay. So I have these two. So the only thing I want to do is I want to mount these, but I want to just take a moment just to wipe this off before I get a little bit farther out of hand. Some of these have adhesive pieces on them. And again, I've not done this, so we'll do it together and see what it looks like. So I have water, so I'm going to just re-wet it to start and see if that works. So that definitely got off all the ink. I have like a little teeny ditzel down here of adhesive that I probably could use my Stampin' Mist. And then I'll rinse this in the sink. So there you go. Looks pretty good. Probably could clean it with a damp microfiber cloth just to finish it off dry wise, but that looks pretty good. All right, so all I'm going to do with these two is just put these onto, and I think I'm going to go with just a smaller panel card in general, just because there's a lot going on in the background and just not to make it too crazy. So I'm going to bring in, for both of them, Night of Navy. We'll just do 2 birds, 1 stone. And I'm going to score this regularly, and we're going to see what it looks like. It might be perfectly fine on a regular card base. Okay. Let's take a peek. I feel like it almost needs just a little bit of something in the background. Maybe like a little lighter color blue panel. Like, let's go with 1 layer of Misty Moonlight and see what that looks like. So I'm going to start off with 4. And I'll bring this one to 5 1/4. We'll do 1 layer and see. If not, we can always go down a layer. Have that. You got this. And then this. Yeah, that's a little too big. Let's do 3 3/4 by 5. And I don't know, something about me with the like askew layers. Oh, I like that. That looks cool. You could even do this as an embossed layer as well, but I don't want to push that too far because this has already been a long enough video and you guys might be losing your attention span at this point. Other cool thing I'm going to show you that you can do, which would be really, really neat, to change the background without even having to do embossing. I'll do it for the second one. So for this one, this will be plain. We'll need something for this one, I feel like. So let me grab my glue. So we ended up cutting this down to 3 3/4 by 5. And we'll put that right here. Okay, and then this one, again, we're on watercolor paper, so definitely be generous with your ink. Okay, there's that. Just give that a moment. Okay, so this one we're going to layer, but what we're going to do first, I'm going to show you. So you take your bone folder and you kind of work, and I've never done it with a piece this big, so hopefully it'll be fine. But what you're doing is you're working your layers with your bone folder, and you're essentially breaking up the fibers in the layers of cardstock. So you just keep working it, and you'll see it starts to like crackle. It's exactly what you want. Keep going back and forth. And you'll start to notice it splitting at the end. So here it's starting to fray. So this is what they call suede paper. And you'll see when I pull it apart. The only thing you have to know when you do this is you want to be gentle, because if you goof it up, it will rip. And you technically can get 2 papers out of 1 for this. And if it starts ripping, just go back and rework your paper. So what you're going to do is very carefully, you're going to just see that this is separated here. And you're going to just pull, gently pull. Right here's a little tough still, so I'm just going to go over it. Kind of cool thing you can do if you're like sitting around watching TV and you... And also, because of the type of card we're making, if it is ripped, it's not going to really be a deal breaker, because it's supposed to look like an old boat. Come down here. Now, if you use a piece that's smaller than this, it's way easier. This is probably the biggest piece I've ever done with this, so I really don't know what it'll look like. I'm just going to go a little bit for the center. And this piece ripped off a little bit, which is okay. Then you have this piece that kind of looks like, almost like faux map paper. The other thing you could do is you want to take this one step farther. I've not done this before, so I'm just kind of going as I go. And this is the one that had the navy on it earlier. I think that was it. And just take a little bit. You can't really go back as much because it does curl, because it's such a thin paper, so you have to go out instead of coming in like you normally would do. You can even curl this side if you wanted to curl it up a little bit. Let's see. Come on. Do what I want you to do. Little pieces that are ripped. Okay. So then, move this over. Same thing again. Let me just give this a quick swipe. That is one of the greatest parts about this mat, is it's super easy cleanup, which, you know, if you're messy, and I am definitely messy. And I'm not going to be real particular with this, with getting the, excuse me, all the corners to go down, because we have some that are curled, so I'm going to just kind of let them be. Kind of just more so pressing the center. Again, I'm making sure I'm really adding a good amount of glue with this watercolor, because we're sticking it to a textured background, and I just want to hold on to that for a second. And if you noticed, I have not added a sentiment to the front of these cards, because I sometimes feel like I do, and then I'll pull the card out to use it, and I was like, well, dang, because I already have that as a such and such card. Now I can't use it for what I wanted to. So I've been trying to kind of keep them a little bit more open-ended so I can make them into what I want them to be. So there are your cards. Again, I know I didn't make all, let me slide these over so you can see that end one a little bit. I know I didn't make all these live, but definitely giving you some ideas. And with this one, with the small thing in the background, you can make your own paper if you wanted to change something up a little bit. Maybe you ran out of coordinating designer series paper and you need like a little something for the background. That's a great way to do it. Also, definitely lots of different ways that you can use this glass mat to create many, I mean, this is pretty much like a mixed media in a way of paper crafting, which I think is really, really fun because it adds a lot of usage to stuff that you might already have. So again, I would like to do these again more in the greens tone because I like just those mixed colors, and I think these two together here in the background really ended up being super cool. So let me know, what is your favorite? I think the only thing that I'm going to add on after the fact to this one is I'm going to die cut a little skull and crossbones and put that up there so they know that this is the black pearl. But I think it's pretty cool with all the paper peeled up and all those little layers of stuff, making it really fun. So if you haven't already, please make sure that you like and subscribe this channel. I would love for you to share this with a friend that you think would enjoy it as well. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them below. I do read all of them, and school will be back in session, so I will try to keep up. I know I don't get all that many comments, but I'll try to keep up with what you guys have left me. I want to thank you so very much for watching today. If you'd like to get any of the products, you can click below. The description will take you to the full blog post with all the measurements and everything used, and you can also shop from my YouTube description below all the products that we use today. Sale A Bration starts January 4th, so if you want to get your hands on this glass mat, join my team. You can either choose that or you can get an extra $30, I believe it is, of merchandise instead of the glass mat. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.